Dad never learned class. Thank God for Brandon's family. Those words cost my daughter $2.4 million in our relationship forever. My daughter stood in front of 120 people and basically told them I was an embarrassment. I smiled, hugged her, and walked out. The next morning, the company she expected to inherit was no longer hers. My name is Charles Bennett. I'm 58 years old, and for 35 years I built something I thought would make my little girl proud. Turns out I was dead wrong. It started back in 1989 when my wife Margaret and I bought a beat-up pickup truck with our wedding gift money. We were young, broke, and probably crazy. I wanted to start a construction company in the Chicago suburbs. Everyone said we'd fail. Two kids from blue-collar families trying to make it in a business where you need connections and capital. We had neither. Those first years nearly broke us. I worked dawn to dusk, 7 days a week. Started with small jobs, fixing porches, replacing roofs, painting, houses, anything that paid. Margaret kept the books while pregnant with Lisa, sitting at our kitchen table with invoices spread everywhere, calculator in one hand, her belly getting bigger each month. "Charlie, we made $800 this week," she'd tell me when I came home covered in sawdust. "That's enough for groceries and the truck payment." We celebrated every small victory. First $1,000 week, first repeat customer, first time someone recommended us to their neighbor. Margaret would cook something special, and we'd sit on our back porch planning the future. Lisa was born in April 1991, 7 pounds, 2 ounces, with Margaret's dark hair and my stubborn chin. I held her that first night at the hospital and made a promise. She'd never want for anything. She'd go to the best schools, have every opportunity I never had. She'd see her old man build something real, something lasting, something she could be proud of. And I kept that promise, every single day for 33 years. By the time Lisa was 5, I had 3 trucks and a crew of 8 guys. Good men, mostly. Rodriguez worked for me even then, young guy straight out of trade school with more ambition than sense. We built decks, additions, small custom homes. Nothing fancy, but solid work that lasted. By Lisa's 10th birthday, we were building custom homes in the nicer suburbs. Bennett Construction became a name people knew and trusted. We did quality work, paid our guys fairly, never cut corners. I was proud of what we built, literally and figuratively. Lisa grew up on job sites during summer breaks. She'd wear a pink hard hat I bought special for her, following me around while I explained how foundations work, why you can't rush concrete, how every beam has to be perfect because someone's family will live under that roof. "Daddy, when I grow up, can I build houses too?" she asked one afternoon when she was 8, watching our crew frame a 2-story colonial. "Sweetheart, you can build anything you want," I told her. "Houses, businesses, dreams. Sky's the limit." She called herself Daddy's little foreman. Those were the best years of my life. Margaret and I celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary in 2016 with a dinner at Rossetti's, the same restaurant where I proposed. Lisa was finishing her MBA at Northwestern, and we were so proud. Our little girl was smart, ambitious, going places we never dreamed of. "We did good, Charlie," Margaret said that night, holding my hand across the white tablecloth. "Look what we built together." She meant Lisa, but she could have meant everything. The business, the house, the life we'd created from nothing but determination and elbow grease. I didn't know we only had 4 more years. Margaret died in March 2020. Pancreatic cancer, diagnosed too late, spread too fast. 6 months from diagnosis to funeral. The worst 6 months of my life. I worked myself half to death trying to pay for treatments that couldn't save her. Experimental procedures, specialists in Houston and Boston, anything that might give us more time. The bills were crushing, $340,000 in medical expenses, most of it not covered by insurance. I mortgaged everything we owned, burned through our retirement savings, maxed out every line of credit. None of it mattered in the end. Lisa came to the hospital when she could, but she was busy with her new job at some corporate consulting firm downtown. Important meetings, client presentations, career-building stuff. I understood. Margaret raised her to be independent, successful. The funeral was packed. Margaret was loved by everyone, our crews, suppliers, neighbors from the old neighborhood where we started. Lisa gave a beautiful speech about her mother, about the strong woman who raised her with infinite love and practical wisdom. She cried in my arms afterward, and I thought at least we'd have each other. I was wrong about that too. The first few months after losing Margaret were hell. The house felt empty without her laugh, her cooking smells, her way of making everything feel like home. I'd come back from job sites and sit in my truck for 10 minutes, dreading the silence inside. I started eating takeout every night because cooking for one seemed pointless. Margaret's recipe box sat untouched on the counter, too painful to open. Lisa came by Sundays at first. We'd sit in the living room looking through old photos, talking about her mother, trying to figure out how to be a family of 2 instead of 3. But then in September 2021, Lisa met Brandon. At first it seemed normal. Lisa was 30, successful, beautiful. Of course she'd find someone eventually. Brandon Turner was an investment banker, well-educated, seemed like a decent enough guy. Clean-cut, polite, asked intelligent questions about the business when Lisa brought him around. "Your daughter's amazing, Mr. Bennett," he told me one Sunday over Margaret's pot roast recipe that I was still trying to perfect. "She's got this incredible strength, real authentic family values. So different from the people I work with. I liked him initially. He seemed to genuinely care about Lisa, and God knows she deserved happiness after what we'd been through with Margaret's death." Brandon grew up in Lake Forest. Lisa mentioned that first Sunday he joined us. His family's in law and finance. Very successful. She said it with this tone I couldn't quite identify. Pride, maybe, or something else. Over the following weeks, Lisa started talking about Brandon's family more and more. His father, Gregory, was a corporate lawyer, handled big mergers and acquisitions for Fortune 500 companies. His mother, Patricia, served on charity boards, organized fundraisers for the symphony. They lived in some mansion with a circular driveway, belonged to the Lake Forest Country Club, vacationed in the Hamptons every summer. "Greg thinks there's huge potential in the construction industry," Lisa mentioned one Sunday in October, using Brandon's father's first name like they were old friends. "He says small family businesses like ours could really benefit from professional management guidance." Something about the way she said small family business bothered me. We employed 45 people. We'd built over 200 custom homes. We weren't small by any reasonable measure. "What kind of guidance?" I asked. "Strategic planning, market expansion, operational efficiency, corporate level thinking, as if 35 years of hands-on experience building a business from nothing didn't count as thinking. November brought the first canceled Sunday dinner. Lisa called Saturday night, her voice bright and apologetic. "Dad, I'm sorry, but Gregory and Patricia invited Brandon and me to some charity gala at the Drake Hotel. It's important for Brandon's career networking." "Of course, honey, we can do dinner next week." But next week became the week after. Then the week after that. Lisa always had reasonable excuses. Another charity event, a weekend in Wisconsin at the Turner family cabin, a business trip to New York where Brandon was showing her the city through proper eyes. By Christmas 2021, our weekly dinners had become monthly phone calls. Lisa was busy building her relationship, and I was learning to eat alone again. During one of our increasingly rare conversations, Lisa mentioned meeting Patricia Turner for lunch. "She's so elegant, Dad, really sophisticated. She went to Vassar, knows about art and culture, speaks French. She's been teaching me about wine, about how to present yourself in professional settings. You've always presented yourself just fine, sweetheart." "I know, but there's a difference between doing okay and really excelling. Patricia says there are social skills that separate good business people from truly successful ones." Social skills. As if the ability to manage construction crews, negotiate with suppliers, and satisfy demanding homeowners wasn't social enough. When Lisa and Brandon got engaged in February 2024, I found out through a Facebook post. Not a phone call, not a visit to share the news. A social media announcement with photos of them at some fancy restaurant I'd never heard of. Lisa showing off a diamond ring that probably cost more than most people's cars. I called her immediately. "Congratulations, sweetheart. I'm so happy for you." "Thanks, Dad." Brandon proposed at Alinea. 3 Michelin stars. Gregory and Patricia arranged everything, hired a photographer, made it really special. "That sounds wonderful. When's the engagement party?" "I'll clear my calendar." There was a pause, a hesitation that lasted just long enough to make my stomach tighten. "Actually, Gregory and Patricia are hosting it at the Lake Forest Country Club. It's going to be pretty formal. Black tie, sit-down dinner, that level of event. I own a tuxedo, Lisa. Wore it to your mother's company Christmas parties for 15 years. Another pause. "Right. Of course, I'll send you the invitation." The invitation arrived in the mail a week later, heavy, cardstock, elegant script, embossed lettering. "Mr. and Mrs. Gregory Turner requests the pleasure of your company at an engagement celebration honoring Brandon Turner and Lisa Bennett. Not the Bennett family hosting, not Lisa and Brandon hosting. The Turners. As if I didn't exist. I called Lisa about the wording. It's just traditional, Dad. The groom's family typically hosts the engagement party. Since when? Your mother and I hosted engagement parties for 3 of your cousins. This is different. The Turners have experience with formal events. They know how to handle the details, the vendor relationships, the guest coordination. Vendor relationships. As if I hadn't been coordinating contractors, suppliers, and service providers for 35 years. How many people are we talking about? About 120. Brandon's colleagues from the bank, some of Gregory's business associates, family friends, people from the club. What about our people, your mother's friends, guys from the crew, neighbors from the old neighborhood? Dad, this isn't that kind of party. These are all professional contacts, business relationships, different social circle. My own daughter was telling me I wasn't good enough for her engagement party. I bought a new tuxedo anyway. Got my hair cut at the expensive place downtown instead of Mario's where I'd been going for 20 years. Polished my good shoes until they gleamed. This was my daughter's engagement party, and I was going to look respectable, even if I apparently didn't belong there. The week before the party, Lisa called with what she presented as helpful advice. Dad, just so you know, most of Brandon's colleagues are in finance and law. Very buttoned-up crowd. If anyone asks about work, maybe just say you're in construction and leave it at that. Leave it at that. Don't mention the 45 employees depending on us for their livelihoods. Don't mention the families living in homes we built with our hands. Don't mention the 35-year track record of honest work and satisfied customers. Just say construction and hope nobody asked follow-up questions. That's when I knew I'd already lost her. The night of the engagement party arrived like a sentencing hearing. I drove to the Lake Forest Country Club in my 15-year-old Ford pickup, watching Bentleys and Mercedes turn into the valet lane ahead of me. The parking attendant looked at my truck like I'd brought a lawnmower to a car show. The country club was everything you'd expect from people who thought I didn't belong there. Marble floors that probably cost more than most people's houses, crystal chandeliers that threw rainbows across walls lined with oil paintings of dead rich men, waiters in white gloves carrying champagne flutes on silver trays. I found Lisa in the receiving line, stunning in a navy blue dress that probably cost more than I paid Rodriguez in a month. She looked like Margaret at that age, but there was something different in her eyes when she saw me. Something cold, distant, like she was looking at a stranger who'd wandered into the wrong event. Dad, you made it. Thanks for coming. A quick hug, formal and brief. The kind of hug you give distant relatives at funerals. Then she turned to greet the next guest before I could even congratulate her properly, leaving me standing there holding a gift I'd wrapped myself because Margaret always said store wrapping looked impersonal. I spent the next 2 hours nursing a whiskey and trying to make conversation. The room was full of people I didn't know and who clearly didn't want to know me. Most of Lisa's friends from business school, Brandon's colleagues from the investment bank, various Turner family connections who spoke in that particular way wealthy people do when they're trying to sound casual about expensive things. When people asked what I did, I'd say I owned a construction company like Lisa had suggested. They'd nod politely and find excuses to talk to someone else within 30 seconds. Nobody wanted to hear about building houses when they were busy discussing their portfolios and vacation homes. Brandon's father Gregory held court near the bar, telling stories about his latest corporate acquisition, name-dropping clients like he was reading from the Wall Street Journal. Lisa hung on his every word, laughing at his jokes, seeking his approval in a way that made my chest tighten. She used to look at me like that when she was little, and I'd explain how electrical systems worked or why we used specific grades of lumber. Gregory noticed me watching and walked over with that particular smile wealthy men use when they're about to be condescending. Charles, right? Brandon tells me you're in the trades, construction work. That's honest labor, very respectable. Honest labor. Respectable. The way he said it made both sound like participation trophies. I own Bennett Construction. We've built over 200 custom homes in the last 15 years. Impressive. Small business. Ownership is the backbone of America. Of course, the industry's changing rapidly these days. Consolidation, corporate efficiency, strategic partnerships. The successful companies are adapting to more professional management structures. Professional management structures, as if knowing how to pour a foundation that wouldn't crack and managing crews who'd work through Chicago winters wasn't professional enough. Lisa appeared at Gregory's elbow like she'd been summoned. "Dad, have you met Patricia? She's been so helpful with the wedding planning. Patricia Turner was everything you'd expect. Perfectly styled silver hair, understated but expensive jewelry, that particular way of shaking hands that made it clear she was doing you a favor by acknowledging your existence. Charles, we're so pleased Lisa found our Brandon. She's such a refreshing change from the usual social climbing types he used to date. So authentic, so grounded in real values. Real values. As if the values that built everything Lisa had grown up with were somehow quaint artifacts from a simpler time. Then came the speeches. Brandon went first, talking about finding his perfect match in Lisa, about building a future together that honored both their backgrounds. Safe, appropriate, nothing that made anyone uncomfortable. Gregory followed, welcoming Lisa to the family, talking about the bright young people who represented the future of American business leadership. He got polite applause and satisfied nods from the crowd. Then Lisa took the microphone. My heart started racing the moment she stepped up to the small stage where a jazz trio had been playing background music. This was my daughter, my little girl in the pink hard hat, about to say something nice about her old man in front of all these important people. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight," she began, her voice carrying clearly across the room. "This celebration means everything to Brandon and me. So far so good," I smiled from my eye spot near the back, proud of how poised and confident she looked. "I especially want to thank Brandon's family for showing me what real success looks like." My smile faltered. Something about her tone, the emphasis on real success, made my stomach drop. Growing up, I thought business meant working with your hands, getting dirty, building things one nail at a time. I thought that was admirable, even noble. The room was quiet now, people sensing something uncomfortable happening but not sure where it was headed. My father built everything with his bare hands, and I used to think that was the highest form of achievement. But Greg and Patricia have shown me that true success means vision, strategy, working with your mind instead of your back. I set my whiskey glass down on the nearest table with a hand that had started to shake. Dad never learned class, never understood that there's a difference between making money and making it elegantly. Thank God Brandon's family is here to guide us towards something better. The words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. 35 years of 16-hour days, calloused hands, missed family dinners because I was working late to pay for her college, all so she could stand there in her expensive dress and tell 120 people that I never learned class. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Not everyone, but enough. Some nervous, some genuinely amused by the idea of this elegant young woman with the blue-collar father who needed guidance towards something better. Gregory Turner smiled like he'd just closed a profitable deal. Patricia covered her mouth with her hand, pretending to be surprised by Lisa's candor, but clearly delighted by it. Brandon looked uncomfortable for about 2 seconds before joining the polite laughter. Lisa wasn't looking at me. She was looking at Gregory, seeking his approval for throwing her old man under the bus in front of everyone who mattered to her new life. For about 10 seconds, I couldn't move. The room felt like it was spinning, voices becoming distant echoes. 35 years of building something for someone who was ashamed of how I'd built it. Then something clicked. Some survival instinct from the early days when everything was a fight to stay afloat. I wasn't going to break down here, not in front of these people who already thought I didn't belong. So I smiled. It probably looked fake as hell, but I smiled anyway. I walked through the crowd toward the stage, people stepping aside like I had some contagious disease. I climbed the 3 steps to where Lisa stood holding the microphone, still basking in Gregory's approving smile. I hugged her. It was cold, mechanical, nothing like the hugs I'd given her as a child, but I hugged her anyway. "Congratulations, sweetheart," I whispered in her ear, just loud enough for her to hear. "I hope you get everything you deserve." She tensed up, maybe hearing something in my voice that didn't match the words, but she hugged me back for the cameras. I stepped down from the stage, nodded to the crowd like I was accepting their joke gracefully, and walked straight to the exit. Nobody tried to stop me. Nobody followed. I handed my valet ticket to the kid outside, waited 5 minutes for my Ford pickup to appear among all the luxury cars, and drove home. I made it about halfway before I had to pull over. Sat in a McDonald's parking lot for 20 minutes, crying like I hadn't cried since Margaret's funeral. Not just because of the humiliation, but because I'd lost my daughter. The little girl in the pink hard hat who used to brag about her daddy building houses was gone, replaced by someone who was embarrassed by everything I was. But somewhere between the tears and the rage, something else emerged. A cold, clear certainty that I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life begging for scraps of respect from people who'd decided I wasn't good enough. Monday morning, I called my lawyer, Sandra Pierce. Sandra, I need to see you today, and I need everything to be completely confidential. Tuesday, I discovered exactly what Lisa and her new family had planned for me. I went to Lisa's apartment while she was at work, using the spare key she'd given me years ago for emergencies. In her home office, I found a manila folder labeled Bennett Construction, Strategic Planning. Inside were printed emails between Lisa and Gregory Turner, dating back to January. The subject lines made my blood run cold. Succession timeline, management transition, asset consolidation opportunities. Your father's getting older and more set in his ways, Gregory had written. These family construction companies often struggle with succession planning. Smart to start positioning for a smooth leadership transition. Lisa's response? Dad's very hands-on, very old school. It might take some convincing to get him to consider outside management consultants. Don't worry, Gregory replied. We'll frame it as growth strategy modernization. He'll see it's for the best when we show him the expansion potential. My firm handles these transitions regularly. Expansion potential. They weren't talking about helping the company grow. They were planning a takeover disguised as family guidance. I photographed every page with my phone, put everything back exactly where I'd found it, and left. Wednesday, I met with Sandra again, this time with Miguel Rodriguez. Miguel had worked for me 15 years ago, straight out of trade school with more ambition than experience. He'd started his own company 5 years back, specialized in commercial construction, and had been trying to expand into residential for months. Your crews are the best in the region, Mr. Bennett, Miguel told me. I'm not looking to strip anything apart. I want to grow what you built. That's when I knew what I had to do. Friday, we signed the papers. Rodriguez Construction bought Bennett Construction for $2.4 million cash. Every employee got a retention bonus and guaranteed employment for at least 2 years. The Bennett name would continue as a division under Miguel's expanded operation. Saturday morning, I transferred the lakefront condo I'd been planning to give Lisa as a wedding present. $380,000 property deed went to my niece Katie, who'd just graduated nursing school drowning in student loans. Monday, Lisa found out when she showed up at the office and discovered new management reviewing files in what used to be her future inheritance. She called me 43 times that day. 43 calls, each voicemail more desperate than the last. Dad, what's happening? They're saying you sold the company. Call me back. Dad, please, this has to be a mistake. You wouldn't do this without telling me. Dad, I'm scared. Brandon's family is furious. Gregory's talking about lawsuits. Dad, I'm sorry about Saturday night. I didn't mean it how it sounded. Please don't do this to me. But I didn't call back. Lisa showed up at my house the following Saturday, pounding on the door until I finally answered. She looked terrible. Lost weight, dark circles under her eyes, that confident executive composure completely shattered. Dad, please, we need to talk. I let her in, made coffee, sat across from her at the kitchen table where we used to do her homework. Why? She asked, tears streaming down her face. Why would you sell without telling me? I looked at my daughter, this woman I'd loved unconditionally for 33 years, who'd publicly decided I wasn't good enough for her new life. Lisa, after your mother died, what did I do? You worked constantly, threw yourself into the business. I worked to pay for her treatments, experimental procedures, specialists, anything that might save her. $340,000 in medical bills, every penny I had plus money I didn't have. I paused, letting that sink in. After the funeral, how many Sunday dinners did you come to in 2 years? When I needed my family most? Her face crumpled. I was building my career. 7, I said. 7 dinners in 2 years. 7 times you chose to be with your father, who just lost everything that mattered. I'll make it right, she whispered. I'll apologize publicly. Tell everyone. Lisa, there are consequences to choices. You chose Brandon's family over yours. You chose status over loyalty. You chose to be embarrassed by your father instead of proud of him. She left that afternoon, and I haven't seen her since. 2 weeks later, Brandon broke off the engagement. Seems like Gregory's vision of a strategic alliance lost its appeal when there was no business to absorb. Lisa moved back to a small apartment, took a junior position at a different firm, started over at 33 with nothing but her MBA and whatever lessons this taught her. As for me, I packed everything that mattered and drove to Asheville, North Carolina. Mountain country, where knowing how to build something with your hands is still respected. That's where I met Linda Patterson. She runs a craft brewery downtown, built it from scratch after her divorce 5 years ago. Silver-haired, laugh lines around her eyes, hands that understand honest work. We've been together 6 months now. She never met Margaret, but she understands that a big part of my heart always will belong to my wife. And I understand her ex-husband will always be part of her story too. Sometimes I think about Lisa. Wonder if she learned anything from losing everything she took for granted. But mostly, I don't. I'm 58 years old, and for the first time in decades, I'm living for myself. I wake up when I want, work on projects that interest me, spend evenings with someone who values the same things I do. The girl who called herself Daddy's little foreman chose social climbing over family loyalty. That's her choice to live with. Mine is to finally be at peace. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone who doesn't value you is the lesson of living without you. Blood may make you family, but respect makes you worth keeping.